we look at the last 15 years of channel migration, there was a period in the early 2010s, especially, and around the time of the refugee crisis in Europe, where you had quite a large number of people trying to cross the channel by using lorries, especially, but also trains. So trying to use the Eurotunnel to do that. And in response to that, you saw ramped up cooperation between the UK and France, a number of agreements come into place, which essentially tried to place more resources, more people, and more technology in order to try to enforce the border on the northern coast of France. Now, after a number of years, all of these measures, and here I'm talking about increased patrols, increased sensors, new fencing, perimeter, CCTV, all of those things, that ended up having a significant effect. And you saw the number of people making the crossing fall down significantly into the late 2010s, until you started having the small boats issue. And a lot of people are actually arguing that the emergence of the small boats route starting in 2017-18 and then ramping up was in itself a response to increased enforcement around the border to prevent lorry crossings. Essentially, it became so hard for people to cross using other means that pressure, that demand for crossing ended up pushing the development of a new rule. The real question here is how many people can be sent back. It's a question of scale. If a large proportion of the people who arrive by small boats are sent back to France rather quickly under such a scheme, then it's very possible that there will be a deterrent effect. Again, it's about pure incentives. You're not going to get on a boat and pay thousands to a smuggler if you know there's a very high chance you'll end up on the same beach within days. But if the scheme only covers a small number of people, then it seems very difficult that it will actually affect anyone's decision. So it does boil down to numbers at the end of the day. A number of factors that make migrants want to come here. A big factor is family ties. That's always the case with asylum seekers. Whoever has family networks or some kind of ties to the UK will want to cross. There's also a general perception of the UK being a relatively welcoming destination, rightly or wrongly, that seems prevalent across Europe. Now, when it comes to objective pull factors, there has been a repeated argument, especially from the French side, that the UK labor market is too easy to access for irregular migrants, that the UK doesn't have an identity card system, and that makes things easier. Now, our position on this has always been that there's not really a lot of evidence to support it. You think about the journey that a lot of these migrants make, they come in through Europe and go through a number of European states. And we know from qualitative research, so interviews with people in Calais, that a lot of the people who try to make the crossing, and some of them eventually succeed, they have had quite negative experiences on the continent. They've tried to apply for asylum in other places, to settle in other places, and they found that that they either didn't get status or weren't getting the life they expected there. And in that situation, your only option is to keep going. And if you keep going through Europe, you'll eventually end up on the north coast of France. And the UK is essentially a sort of lost chance.
Métier complète et de la fin de la conscription. Nous avons aussi fait le choix de la compléter par une réserve. Et dans notre loi de programmation militaire en cours...
No, I totally agree. No finger pointing, and we work closely together. And the only way to be efficient is to work together, because you should not underestimate the impact this situation has on the northern part of France. And I think it's very often underestimated in your domestic debates. But it's not a gift for Calais, Dunkirk, and a lot of cities in France to have all these illegal migrants. And even when you go to these migrants and offer them asylum in France and some solutions, they just refuse. They want to cross the channel. So we have no other options than working closely together.
Et des compétences dans la société civile et de revisiter ce pacte armée-nation qui est si important. Nous devons...
What is very important to understand is this is a collaborative, cooperative, and comprehensive plan, working from the origin country, the increasing and the adaptation of our bilateral action, and the fight against precisely this illegal situation on your soil. And this is the efficiency on this new plan, and I'm totally committed to make it work, because this is clearly our willingness and our common interests. And this pilot project, I wanted to insist on one point. This is a deterrence effect. And beyond the figures you mentioned, the point and what we want to do is precisely to have this deterrence effect vis-à-vis all these smugglers and all the traffickers, in order to send a message that we are efficient and they have no more interest to try to play with the rules.